for you. I am so excited to get to the latest on the war in Iran. We have original reporting about the Trump administration's youngest immigrant detainees, some extraordinary guests, including the Los Angeles mayoral candidate who vanquished Spencer Pratt and the journalist who just won more Emmys for her work than any other. And by the way, coming up in just a little bit, I'm going to tell you all about what you can expect right here every week, Saturday and Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. in my hometown of Los Angeles. But today, we start with what the show is all about, the people. And last night, the people flocked to watch workers begin to scrape President Trump's name off of the Kennedy Center building in real time. I was transfixed by it, too. I stayed up late watching it on this very network. You are looking at a live shot of the building right now. You can see a tarp is now covering the building. What a surprise. The process began early this morning. It all comes after multiple courts ruled Trump's name has to be taken off the storied arts institution in Washington, D.C., and an appeals court rejected a last-minute bid from the White House to stop it. The Trump administration also asked for an extension to last night's deadline, and just moments ago, a judge granted the administration's request for a 12-hour extension to remove Trump's name from the building. They have to inform the court of their compliance by noon today while we are on the air. We will be watching this live shot all day long. We literally have one member of our team that is all they are doing today. We will bring you updates throughout the show. But for now, I want to turn to my home state, to California, which has become President Trump's latest scapegoat in his ongoing efforts to sow doubt in America's elections. Or should I say, in the elections he or his party loses. And it is a pretty grim preview of what is to come for the midterm elections for this entire nation. California is just now wrapping up its ballot count after the primary elections that took place just over 2 weeks ago. According to the Associated Press, 93 to 99% of the ballots in key races have been counted and called. One of those called elections is the Los Angeles mayor's race. Incumbent Mayor Karen Bass and City Council member Nithya Raman are headed to a runoff. Raman beat out Spencer Pratt, the former reality star, for second place. And now it seems that Pratt has more in common with Donald Trump than being a former reality star with political ambitions. Pratt has taken a page out of Donald Trump's playbook and has been crying voter fraud over his loss. Though he did appear to finally accept the election results last night in a rambling and frankly unhinged video, which includes threats of political retribution against Mayor Bass and Nithya Raman, Trump is also claiming unsubstantiated voter fraud in California's primaries. They point to the state's longer ballot count timeline and the large share of mail-in ballots as cause for alarm. But here is the thing. The ballot counting process is historically slower in California, but it is also historically accurate and transparent. And ironically, it is because California has one of the most accessible and verifiable election systems in this entire country. Every single voter receives a mail-in ballot. I got one. You can either drop it off at a polling station or you can mail it in. In last year's special election alone, nearly 90% of voters opted to vote by mail in California. Many voters wait until the last minute to drop off or mail in their ballot. But as long as it's postmarked by Election Day, you're good to go. Ballots arrive at those processing centers where verification begins. First signatures on the envelopes are checked both by machines and by amazing trained workers. Once they are cleared, ballots are carefully removed. They are inspected. They are prepared for counting. And if there's any problem at all with the signature, voters have up to 22 days after the election to fix it. California is big, not news to you. We got 23 million registered voters, more than any other state by a wide margin. So yeah, verifying those ballots is a long and tedious process. But like I said, it works. And anybody can go see the process for themselves. It's open to the public. I personally visited a ballot processing center last week, LA County's ballot processing center, and I watched the painstaking process. At the end of the day, California's vote counting process isn't built for speed, it's built for accuracy and access. Isn't that what we want? And while that can test public patience, election officials say it is the trade-off that ensures every valid ballot gets counted. But as skepticism and deliberate disinformation about election continues to grow nationwide, the bigger question might be how to maintain trust in this process itself. It is not just a California story. The persistent lies coming from the White House and others are eroding confidence in our electoral system. As the November midterm elections approach, an April YouGov poll found that only 38% of Americans think the midterms will be conducted fairly and accurately. Joining me now is Dean Logan, the Registrar, Recorder, County Clerk for Los Angeles County. He is responsible for overseeing election results in the largest and most complex county in the nation, the largest election jurisdiction in the United States. Dean Logan, it's great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Good morning. Great to be with you, Jacob.
Thanks so much. Dean, we have heard what the president has said, what Spencer Pratt has said, and other critics are arguing that California prioritizes this access over speed. Is that a fair characterization? Why has the state chosen that approach?
Yeah, I think it is a fair characterization. And I think it's not just that we value accuracy and transparency over speed. It's that California has long had policy or laws that value participation and making sure that our diverse population in the county of Los Angeles and in California have every opportunity to be sure that their voice is heard. So it's really about making sure that the purpose of an election, right, is to get everybody the opportunity to have their voice heard. And that's what this model is designed to do.
I just want to put up on the screen this tweet that Spencer Pratt put out in the aftermath of the election at a time when the votes were still being counted. He said a net swing of more than 43,000 votes since Tuesday. 43,000, huh? Where have I seen that number before? Probably nothing. And he points to the population of the unhoused, the homeless population in Los Angeles. What is this type of misinformation, disinformation, outright lies about how the votes are counted and cast due to the confidence and the integrity of the process in Los Angeles?
Well, I think, unfortunately, because claims like that can go viral so quickly, and there's so many examples that we could point to, I think the end result or the concern I would have is that that's going to deteriorate into the point where people don't have confidence in the voting process and that they stop participating in the voting process. And that's counterintuitive to the intent of having elections. So we try to the best we can to try and get factual information out to correct that information. But it really has become part of the political game plan when you're not happy with the results of the election to go after the election process. And it's reached a level, in my close to 30 years of being an election administrator, it's reached a level that I think is dangerous now. I think it is causing harm to the core democratic process, and I think that's very unfortunate.
I pointed this out on our air as I have been reporting on this since Election Day, but everything about this system is deliberate and it's systematic and it is designed to ensure that every vote is accurately cast and counted. Even voting by mail in the vote centers model that we use in California and in Los Angeles is one that there's all these accusations. This is a democratic system made up by Democrats. But I like to point out, Dean, that the vote centers were created in 2003 in Larimer County, Colorado by a Republican county clerk there, Scott Doyle. Is this a democratic system, an election system?
Not at all. And I think you make a good point. You use the example of the vote centers. I will go further kind of on the western side of the country where vote by mail first became popular first in Oregon, then Washington and California. It really was a trio of Republican secretaries of state that championed the move towards vote by mail. And more importantly, Jacob, not just Republican secretaries of state or Republican election administrators in Colorado, but it's voters who have moved this initiative forward. It's voter behavior. The fact that before we started mailing ballots to every registered voter, already 70% of voters in the state were already requesting to receive their ballots by mail on an ongoing basis. So this is responsive to the preferences of our electorate.
And why wouldn't you? If you want to wait till the last possible minute and you aren't able to get to the polls on our general elections on the Tuesday after the first Monday in November, the whole idea is to be able to have your vote cast and counted. What did you think about this YouGov poll that I mentioned? 38% of Americans believe the midterms will be conducted fairly and accurately. Only 38%. What kind of concern or what kind of fear does that strike into the heart of an election administrator, particularly for the largest election jurisdiction in the country?
Yeah, I think for all of us across the country who work in this field, it's discouraging and concerning to see a statistic like that. I take a little bit of comfort in knowing that there are also studies out there that show, if you break that down to where the public is asked about, do they trust the overall elections process in the country versus do they have confidence and trust the the election administration in their local community, there tends to be a higher rate of confidence and trust within the community. I think that's natural because people see and experience what that voting model is like. So I take some comfort in that. I also think that, again, let's look at voter behavior. In this election, we had 500,000 ballots that were returned in the final hours of Election Day at vote centers and in our drop boxes. I think the fact that voters are choosing those options for voting when they have other options, they're choosing to do that, I think is a statement of confidence as well. Yeah. So I think we have to kind of not get stuck and be distracted by the noise out there in the political movement and really listen to our voters and look at the behavior of our voters and make sure that we're ensuring that opportunity that they have to cast their ballot.
Dean, it's my first show, and I'm already ignoring Dina Moss, my executive producer's wrap cue on this segment, because I just really quickly want to ask you, the Department of Justice says they have an investigation going on into voter fraud in the county. But when I was there, you told me that they just showed up, they stood in a publicly available area, they haven't gone through any boxes of votes or had any special access to voter information. What do you know about whether or not there's an active investigation into the way that you all are conducting the vote count in Los Angeles?
I don't have any formal indication that an investigation is happening other than, as you say, there's been one U.S. assistant attorney who has visited multiple days at our ballot processing center. We've responded to some questions from him. But look, I understand they too are hearing all these allegations. They're spreading fast. I think it's important to look into those things. And I think if they follow the facts and they follow the process, hopefully at the end of this, before the November midterms, they're going to be able to join us in conveying to the public that this is a process that you can have confidence in and that voter participation is really the best security of our elections process.
Okay. Sorry, Dina Moss. And thank you, Dean Logan, L.A. County Registrar, Recorder, County Clerk. Appreciate you being here as the first guest on my brand new show. It's great to see you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Coming up later in this very show, I will talk to Nithya Raman about her victory over Spencer Pratt and what Spencer Pratt is saying about her now that she's headed to a runoff election against incumbent Mayor Karen Bass. And still ahead on Connect, I will potentially end the war. According to President Trump, an agreement could be signed, quote, maybe over the weekend in Europe. Pakistan says that details have been finalized, but the U.S. and Iran are still exchanging fire in the middle of all of this. Last night, Central Command said that the United States shot down several Iranian attack drones targeting commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz. So what is going on? The question we ask ourselves over and over again. Joining me now is David Rohde, MS NOW, senior national security reporter. Thank you so much for being here on the first show.
I'm very proud to be your first on-set guest, so thank you.
Me too. It's an honor to have you here. What do we know about this deal?
There is going to be a deal, I think. Both sides are signaling it, and overall, this is a capitulation by President Trump. There's a great story in the New York Times this morning about how a new generation of more hardline leaders has taken over Iran. They're bolder. They have stood up to sort of the heaviest blows that the U.S. could bring with air power in Israel, too. And one key here is that they've quickly figured out, and I'm not arguing for the following, but that President Trump did not want to carry out a ground invasion of Iran. I don't want a ground invasion of Iran, but the whole core flaw of Trump's strategy was that air power alone would cause the Iranians to just give up. That has not worked.
No.
And I think this is going to be a stronger Iran that comes out of this deal.
When you look at what these foreign leaders are saying, including Iran's foreign minister, Pakistan's prime minister, they say they're so optimistic, as you say, that this deal is coming close, but it just feels like epic amounts of Groundhog Day.
I agree, and it could still fall apart. And it could have been an effort maybe by hardliners to fire these drones last night that the U.S. shot down. It's just very clear that the United States wants a deal. They sort of played down. They didn't really make a big announcement out of it last night. Julia Jester, our colleague, and I were reporting on that. And so I do think that there's a good possibility in the last few days. I haven't thought that before. But just there was a call yesterday by a senior administration official, and all the outlines of the deal show that this is essentially a win for Iran. And most importantly, I want to see the final text.
Break that down. Why?
So there's the Strait of Hormuz will reopen. There's a disagreement, and I think you're going to see fuzzy language of whether Iran controls it or not. They are insisting that they will have some control, and their extraordinary achievement was to take control of the Strait of Hormuz and hold it for the last 3 months. No one thought they could do that.
Right.
The American Navy, again, Trump chose not to confront them, like he's been very cautious in his use of force, but that's helped the Iranians. There's no limits to Iran's missile stockpile. That was a key demand that President Trump announced on the night he announced the war. There's no limits on Iran's funding for its proxies. The senior administration officials said yesterday, we're hoping for a whole peace across the entire region, and they won't need to fund their proxies, is the logic there. But it's a victory for Iran. And then the hardest details, what happens to their nuclear program, aren't going to be agreed upon. This is not a ceasefire. It's a memorandum of understanding. It's sort of an interim agreement. And so the toughest negotiations are yet to come. And Iran, and we talked about this earlier, the bottom line, and there's multiple experts agreeing with this now this morning, Trump was offered a better deal regarding Iran's nuclear program before the war. He turned it down.
I remember
yes.
you talking about this when the war began. It felt
yes.
like we're on the verge of it.
He was in. It was a Friday. The war started on a Saturday. I interviewed the Omani foreign minister. He flew directly from the last round of talks in Geneva to Washington. He went to the White House. He met with J.D. Vance. He described the deal that was on the table. He talked to me about it. He talked also to Margaret Brennan of CNN. There's a great longer interview with him describing it. And essentially, the Trump administration, within 24 hours, chose to launch strikes instead of continue those negotiations.
The most Trump has sort of laid out why he thinks that they are nearing a deal was on Thursday. Let me just quickly play that for you to watch.
You have said before that Iran and the United States were close to a deal. It has not happened yet. Why are you so convinced that this time is different?
Because they've taken a pounding. They've taken a pounding like very few people could take, and they want to make the deal a lot more than I do. Most important paragraph to me, Iran will in no way, shape, or form have a nuclear weapon or purchase a nuclear weapon. It's a very strong memorandum of understanding. That is a little conceptual, but it's something that's going to get done.
Concepts of a plan is a PTSD about the health care proposal that Donald Trump has said he was going to manufacture and put into place for Americans. What's the problem with a conceptual deal?
It doesn't. Again, I want to see the fine print. I want it all to be public. And then the last thing is the president's very focused on a statement from Iran. He talked about it, that it will not pursue or, obtain a nuclear weapon. Iran has said that for decades. Mm-hmm. The last supreme leader, who was actually more cautious than the current one, the new one, issued a religious fatwa saying, Iran won't pursue a nuclear weapon. And most American and Israeli officials don't think a promise like that is worth anything. So it's this strange fixation the president has on this statement. But it's just overall, this war was an enormous mistake by President Trump.
David Rode, MSNOW senior national security reporter. Thank you so much for being here. Sorry I didn't wear a suit. I apologize. No, when you come in on Saturday and Sunday morning, I got plenty of shirt jackets for you.
No tie next time.
It's great to see you.
Thank you.
Guys, coming up on Connect, the central theme of the second Trump presidency is the cruel arrests and detentions of migrants and the inhumane living conditions that come with it. We are going to bring you my exclusive report in collaboration with the Marshall Project in full for the first time on this network, exposing the Trump administration's detention of our nation's most vulnerable babies and toddlers. Plus, we continue to watch the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. as the process to remove Trump's name from the building started last night. We want to figure out what is going on behind that tarp. We're going to go there live. I started at this network in August of 2015, but I never, ever thought there might be a day where we would get to have this, a place for us, you and me, to meet regularly. It is not an exaggeration to say it feels pretty incredible to be here with all of you. And by the way, if you showed up this morning looking for the great Ali Velshi, do not worry. He didn't go far. You will find him starting Monday at 11 p.m. Eastern every weekday on this very network as the new anchor of the 11th hour. And let me use this opportunity to say thank you so much to Ali and his entire team for the gracious handoff last week. He made me cry, as he probably did you. Being on TV is weird. In this line of work, it is hard to come by someone who is exactly the same in real life as they appear on the screen. But Ali Velshi is that person. He is humble and super smart, extraordinarily empathetic, a man who thinks of other people before himself. That is Ali Velshi. Having him as a colleague for a decade has taught me that not only is it okay to be yourself doing this, it is essential. Essential to say what you see. Essential to report the facts on the ground. Essential to be honest and fair and compassionate. Essential not to be neutral just because. Essential to tell the truth. And to do that by connecting with other people. And that is exactly what we are going to do here every single week. This show, Connect, is a show about you. It's a show about us, about we the people, the words that begin the preamble to the Constitution of the United States of America, the words that make clear this country was founded on the idea that we have no kings, no dictator, no aristocracy. The words that make clear that here the power to make change comes from all of us. Connect is a show about how what happens in the halls of power throughout this great nation and the world affects how you live your life every single day. And that is because working here at MS Now for me has always been, despite many run-ins with bold-faced names and powerful politicians over the years, about people, never about the politics. For my first day here, the thing that made me feel comfortable and safe and at home was being out in the world with so many of you. And I hope to bring whatever that thing is that we have developed together into the studio every weekend. What is that thing? What is that thing? It's a connection that I have felt countless times with countless people reporting for you, including a decade ago, and the first time I really felt it on my inaugural election night here, when young people inside the University of Iowa Fieldhouse in Iowa City showed up in record numbers. They argued with each other. They even dropped an F-bomb on the air as they debated the future of the country in one of the weirdest forms of exercising the franchise you could possibly imagine.
What I want to know is how, because I get VA. I am VA. I am a vet. My mom's a vet. How is he going to fix it? Because I can tell you right now that the VA is more screwed up than it has been in a while. The fact that I haven't gotten benefits in 3 months because the VA is so f***ed up really makes me concerned. So how is Bernie going to fix it?
Bernie's whole thing is that if you can't, Bernie's whole idea on this is that if you can't
when you listen into
veterans,
caucuses, you take the good with the bad. Sorry about that. People often speak the way they do out on the street, and we apologize. I know Jacob apologizes. We all join him in apologizing for a bit of French that snuck in to our English language translation there.
Again, apologies from us here in the field house as well. Obviously, as I said, this is what democracy looks like. It ain't pretty, and people get very heated out here.
I swear to you, in that moment, I thought I was about to get fired. But it turned out it was just the beginning. It was the start of connecting with all of you, the start of sharing experiences together, the start of feeling seen and understood by you guys. So many of us connected about my reporting from inside the morgue in Montgomery County, Ohio, as America's most deadly overdose crisis unfolded and families around this nation were united not by political party, but by a disease of despair brought on by an alienation so many people felt from our economic and our political systems. Or how about when I traveled to Greenland to see with my own eyes how the changing climate there affects all of us here? I felt the connection as I watched the Trump administration deliberately and systematically separate thousands of immigrant parents from their children in what the American Academy of Pediatrics called government-sanctioned child abuse. And as COVID ravaged the country, I felt it when I went to the streets as people across this nation protested systemic racism in policing and the murder of George Floyd. We connected as I traveled to Haiti to meet people deported to danger and potential death by the Biden administration that had promised a new approach to immigration in the wake of the Trump administration's cruelty. And I felt it, too, when I met refugees from Russia's wide-scale invasion of Ukraine at the very beginning of that war. On the campaign trail in this most recent election, I connected with too many people to count, from a bread factory in Nebraska to a football field in Pennsylvania to the floor of the party conventions. But last year was perhaps the most important assignment I have ever undertaken, as my hometown was devastated by the costliest wildfire event in American history.
I've never quite experienced something so personal, so firsthand in such a way as this. This is not about me, but there's a small part of me that feels what these people are going through tonight. I saw my childhood home that I grew up in until I was about 10 years old. Just this afternoon, I had a chance to get there, and it had burned down as well.
A couple minutes ago, you said this, quote, Pacific Palisades, as you know it, is gone. That obviously means something to you. Tell me what that means to people who call Pacific Palisades home.
I was just saying to Bianca, who's out here producing all the work that I'm doing, that right down this street, I'll just show you. Come and take a look this way. There's a veterinarian's office that my parents were animal people and had a lot of dogs over the course of my childhood. that was our vet. The vet is gone. Around the corner down there, that was my pediatrician's office, Nicole, on the corner over there. If you make a right-hand turn, there's a restaurant, or was one, Cafe Vita, and next to that was the Chinese restaurant, Cafe Palisades, and next to that was the local Starbucks. On the other side of the street was the Noah's Bagels. I could close my eyes and I could walk around here and I could tell you everything about this community.
I will never forget the reception that I had in reporting in those moments. I connected and reconnected with myself and my family, my community, and without a doubt, so many of you. And all of those connections, what I have learned through what we have shared together, the pain and the grief and, of course, joy, a lot of joy, has informed what we've experienced together this year. Americans standing up and pushing back and demanding accountability from our government, from downtown Los Angeles to the halls of 26 Federal Plaza here in New York City, to a Charlotte church, and to the streets of Minneapolis. Of course, we are going to report the news here. But as I have always strived to do, my goal is to put you guys first and to try every single day I'm out here to be who I really am. A reporter, yes, but a dad and a husband and a son and a friend. I have loved the opportunity over so many years to connect with so many of you, and now we have this place and this time to do it. I am grateful for this opportunity and for every person on this team dedicated to making it happen. So here we go. On this show, let's keep doing what we have been doing together for the past 11 years. Let's connect. Check this out. You're taking a live look at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. A tarp is still covering the facade of the historic institution. No action at the moment other than some looky-loos, but a judge has just given the Trump administration a noon deadline to take the president's name off of the building. We're going to have more on that with a live report in just a moment. But now, since Donald Trump returned to the White House last year, his administration has pushed out more than 300,000 federal workers from their jobs. 300,000. But the firing frenzy is not even over. Last week, Trump signed a new executive order that will reclassify about 8,000 positions into a new category called Schedule Policy/Career. Most of those who will be affected are in senior positions, directors and deputy directors and senior advisors, others who are directly involved in drafting regulations and policies. On paper, it might just sound like it's some sort of bureaucratic reshuffling, but it is not. It is a lot more disruptive than that. What it really does is it turns these people into at-will employees. They become disposable, denying them of the worker protections that they currently have. It would make it much easier for the Trump administration to fire them without cause and without due process, making these employees vulnerable to political influence. Ultimately, this is much more than just about people losing their jobs. It's about the loss of experience and expertise from federal institutions. It's about the loss of benefits and services for the people who rely on government help. It's about the loss of security and stability for the affected workers, many of whom have experienced trouble finding a new job. During his marathon 25-hour and 5-minute filibuster speech last spring, New Jersey Senator Cory Booker addressed these issues. He read letters that he had received from some of the federal workers who had been pushed out by the Trump administration, and one of those letters came from a former USAID contractor named Catherine Baker, who wrote about the extensive consequences of the gutting of USAID.
This has ruined me. My mortgage payment isn't what makes me cry, though. It's our local staff and partners that come to mind every night as I say my prayers. When I close my eyes, the specter of very real people from my travels and projects appear, and I hear the echoes of suffering they shared with me, suffering they were sure to know was alleviated, however temporarily, by the United States of America.
Last year, my colleague Steph Rule and I hosted a town hall with some of the many federal workers who were pushed out in the first 100 days of the second Trump administration. And during that special, we were able to connect Catherine Baker with Senator Booker live and in person for the first time. And here's what she had to say about the people who would be most affected by those USAID cuts.
We know that they are going to go without access to food, to medicine. They are going to suffer from conflict, violence. And so we feel compelled to speak up for them.
Catherine now helps run One Aid, a volunteer group that provides resources and support to the USAID and foreign assistance community. And OneAid just released a survey that found that as of April, despite what you might hear, the majority of foreign aid sector employees who were fired by the Trump administration do remain unemployed. This morning, I'm happy to be reconnecting with Catherine Baker, and she joins us with Jamie Oberlander, who is the survey methodologist for that OneAid survey. And she previously also worked for USAID and was also impacted by the DOGE cuts last year. It's good to see you both. Thank you so much for being here on my first show.
Thank you, Jacob. Good to be with you, and congrats on the new show.
Thank you so much. Catherine, let me start with you. When we spoke last year at the town hall, for me, it was one of my most memorable moments. It had been 100 days into the second Trump administration. The job cuts we've been talking about, they were all still pretty new. The consequences were settling in for you all. Tell us about what the past year has been like for you and your peers.
It's been an immensely challenging year. As Jamie will note, as she shares some of the findings from her survey, a majority of our workforce remains unemployed or underemployed. A majority are demonstrating mental health symptoms. Families are being impacted. And we continue to ache for our colleagues overseas, our local colleagues who are struggling even more to find employment, as well as the nearly 800,000 people that have lost their lives due to these USAID cuts.
Jamie, I want to talk about the survey that you put together because Trump had previously said the good news is I don't feel badly now because they're getting private sector jobs. They're getting sometimes twice as much money, 3 times as much money. Your survey torpedoes that claim. You found that 31% remain unemployed, 40% have found full-time jobs. But the crazy thing is even for that 40%, they're making less than they used to or now they're underemployed. What did you learn about the struggle to find new jobs for you and your colleagues?
Yeah, that it's real and that it's uneven, that about 35% are hustling. They're underemployed, pulling together consultancies, part-time gigs just to pay their mortgages. Also that it's disproportionately affecting our African-American colleagues, that their rates of no employment are higher than their rates of full-time employment. Likewise for our colleagues around the globe who supported us as citizens in their home countries.
A lot of fired workers, lawsuits about them, Catherine, have been filed regarding the job cuts over the past year. And as a result, some people have been, I'm thinking about the workers at NIOSH that I went to visit in Morgantown, West Virginia, fired, then reinstated, then fired again. I really worry about that this has become a deterrence for people to keep fighting for their jobs, these dedicated civil servants who actually want to serve this country. Your thoughts?
Oh, I don't think anything could stop us from wanting to serve our country. And it isn't a matter of getting our jobs back or a paycheck, though that's important. Ultimately, we believe in serving the American people. And for those of us that worked with USAID, we believe in serving our fellow person. And so though it's hard, though, it's been a very long time, our community, the federal workforce writ large, contractors, were resilient because we, above all else, believe that America can be a force for good and that we have the expertise to share that.
I don't think I've met a more resilient group of people than the workers I've met in the federal government, whether it was the people that were predicting the fires, the meteorologists out in Los Angeles, or people at, like I said, at NIOSH or the Park Service. Every single person I met is so dedicated to serving this country. And Jamie, it reminds me of something that the OMB director Russ Vought said during a presentation back in 2023. He said, quote, "We want the bureaucrats to be traumatically affected. When they wake up in the morning, we want them not want to go to work because they're increasingly viewed as the villains." This he says about these dedicated civil servants. Your research shows that the job cuts, they basically have had that effect, I think, at least among the former civil servants you spoke with. 78%, if I have it right, said they've experienced mental health distress and other issues. What else has affected people's personal lives when it comes to these firings?
Yeah, it's so many compounding factors. It's not just a loss of a job, but it was never just a job for us. It was a calling. And we invested years and hundreds of thousands of dollars to get the education to do right by our brethren. So multiple compounding factors. For many people, it wasn't just losing a job. It was both adults in their household. 48% of USAID Foreign Service officers experienced a dual job loss. And that goes from hardship to an existential shock to the household. And then you add a layer of moral injury on top of that in terms of just how it was done. And there was a great sense of betrayal from trusted institutions. And I think even more than that, a great sense of deeply held personal and professional values being violated.
I think about you all and your colleagues all the time, and I'm so sorry that they've all gone through this, but it is so extraordinary to see the work that both of you are doing. Catherine Baker, the Managing Director of Strategic Partnerships and Communications at OneAid, and Jamie Oberlander is a former USAID Foreign Service Officer. It's great to see you both.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Coming up on Connect, we are going to go live to the Kennedy Center for an update on the status of President Trump's name being on or off that building and the deadline at noon that they are facing. Don't go anywhere.